Welcome to TinkerzLab, and I'll go over my setup on this plane, and it's a fantastic flying plane. I'd been spying this plane for over a year before I pulled the trigger on it. It went on sale, and I had it delivered to my door for less than $95 for the plug-and-fly version of this plane. I did publish that information on our Facebook page, so I hope some of you were able to take advantage of it because it's a fantastic flying sport slash 3D plane. Let's go ahead and go over the equipment that I'm using. The gyro that I'm using is a Radiolink Beam A. The receiver I'm using is a Radiolink R8FM, and the LiPo I'm using is a 3S 1500 milliamp hour 35C. It weighs 125 grams. All right, so with that LiPo, my all-up weight on this plane is only 558 grams. There are CG marks on the bottom, and the recommended CG, let me see here, I've got this written down. The recommended CG is 92 millimeters plus or minus 5 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing as marked. So there is a molding at the bottom of the wing on each wing that shows where the CG is located. My CG is 88 millimeters from the leading edge of the wing at the CG marks, and I balance it neutral. So when I put my fingers at the front of those circles at 88 millimeters, I get a neutral balance on the plane where it sets completely horizontal, and that's the balance that I like on it. All right, the battery bay dimensions, and this is just a rough measurement of it, guys, so it might be a little bit off, but as long as your battery is at or less than these dimensions, I don't think you're going to have any problem. 27 millimeters wide by 36 millimeters deep by 120 millimeters long. My control surface deflection for the ailerons is 30 millimeters up and 30 millimeters down. My elevator is 26 millimeters up and 26 millimeters down, and my rudder is 45 millimeters to the left and 45 millimeters to the right, and that gives it a good roll rate. It gives it very good pitch control, plenty of elevator. I've got elevator in reserve with 26 millimeters, and that amount of rudder allows me to do hammerheads with a very nice pivot at the top of the vertical climb for doing stall turns, hammerheads, and that 45 millimeters works out really, really well. Okay, my control surface expo is ailerons. I've got at 60%, elevator at 70%, and the rudder at 50% expo. Those settings provide me with the nice smooth controls because those are big control surfaces, guys. So I put a lot of expo in mine so that the controls are nice and smooth, and yet I still have plenty of authority on the control surfaces. So if I want to roll it really, really fast, I have enough to do that. If I want to pull a really tight turn, a really tight loop, I can do that. So I like the way that I've got this set up with those settings. All right, so here are some of the mods that I did. I didn't like the way that the canopy latch fit together. It seemed like it had a little bit of play in it, and I was worried about it not holding, especially if some wires were pushing up on it. So what I did was I took a hot glue gun and I just coated that clip receiver so that there was a little more friction there, and so it fit a little more snug. And after doing that, I haven't had a single problem with the canopy latch not holding on my flights. So you might want to take a look at that. It could be that I got a latch that had a little bit of play in it. Maybe yours will fit completely secure, but I would check on that just to make sure. And that was a quick, easy fix. I think with all the mods that I have, the tiny mods that I performed on this plane, probably didn't take me more than 15 or 20 minutes to do all of them. Okay, so next one. I had a problem after my first flight session. The tail wheel strut came loose from the clip, and the tail wheel was sitting sideways, and I thought that maybe I had bent the strut, but it actually came loose from the clip. So I pulled the strut out as far as I could, and then I glued it back into the receiver. And then I took 2 thin pieces of fiber tape, and I put glue on the fiber tape, and then put the 2 pieces of fiber tape around the front of where the strut attaches to the plastic clip, and then also glue the fiber tape to each side of the rudder, so that clip cannot come loose again from that retaining clip. The tail wheel strut cannot come loose from that again. And I went out for my second flight session and never had a problem with it. So that looked like it turned out to be a good fix. The other thing was the first flight session I was out, and I should think of this ahead of time, because I have to hand launch most of my planes out there in that rough terrain where I land. So this EPO foam is really, really slick, and when the plane's got a lot of power. And when I powered it up the first time to hand launch it at 60% throttle, it almost slipped out of my hand. So before I went back out again with the second flight session, I just took some Velcro, and this is the area that you see here. This is the area where I hold on to the plane. So I put a little piece of Velcro on each side of that little notched out area where I hand launch it, and that gives me a really good grip on the foam. You don't want this thing to pull out of your hand prematurely and nose down hit the ground. So I would recommend, if you got a hand launch like I do, I would recommend that you put some Velcro or something on there that's going to be kind of grippy for you. The wheels that they had on this plane, I felt were just, if you're landing on a smooth surface, you're not going to have any problems with stock wheels. But if you're going to be landing or taking off from grass, or if you're going to be landing or taking off from a hard pack, a rutted out area like I have, you're going to want to put some bigger wheels on it. Let me see here. The stock main wheels were 32 millimeter diameter by 11 millimeter wide. They're almost, the style of the wheels that comes with it's identical to the wheels that I have on there now, just smaller. And in the old money, that's 1.26 inch diameter and 0.43 inch width. So the wheels that I replaced it with, these wheels are 52 millimeters in diameter by 11 millimeter in width. So that's 2.05 inches in diameter and 0.43 inches wide. So considerably taller wheels, larger diameter wheels than the ones that came on it. And I also removed the plastic collars that they had on the end of the strut that held those stock wheels on. And I took some 2.1 millimeter steel wheel collars and put on there instead. It's got a little grub screw so that you know that those are not going to come off even on rough landings or takeoffs or whatever over time. Those collars are going to keep those wheels nice and snug on that axle, on that strut. I will have links to all this stuff, the wheels, the wheel collars, everything. There will be links to those things in the show notes. All right, so let me see. I think we're back at the beginning now. So I think that covers everything that I wanted to cover on this plane. Those things that I had to do to the plane were just so minor. Like I said, 15, 20 minutes to do all of them. And the plane, it flies awesome. I mean, I highly recommend this plane. I think right now the price went back up. I think it's still like $129, $139. I even at that price, I think for this plane, I think it's a good value because it flies awesome. Oh, one other thing I wanted to give you, because I like to fly this like a sport plane rather than a 3D plane. So I don't like it to drag its tail around, you know what I mean? So the balance that I have on it at 88 millimeters is a very good CG, I think, to give a good balance to fly it as a sport plane. And on the elevator, I have a negative 2 millimeter of reflex on the elevator. So the trailing edge of the elevator where I would measure my deflection, that is 2 millimeters lower than in the neutral position. Okay, so it's got just a tiny bit of down elevator dialed into it when the servo is centered, and that has the plane flying pretty nice and level at cruising speed. Now, you're still going to get some pitch up on the nose from time to time if you're flying in wind like I am, because that has a very big wing on the front. It has a very wide flight envelope. If you've watched any of the flight videos, and I will have a link to the playlist in the show notes, and see how slowly I can bring this in and set it down on the landings. And I haven't had a stall out of it yet. And I think if it was going to stall on me, it would have done so by now. If you watch the videos, you'll see what I'm talking about. But just a fantastic plane. A piece of cake to hand launch. I hand launch it at 60% throttle. It has a great amount of power. I would say it's got unlimited vertical. It's very maneuverable. It's very aerobatic. It's very stable, and it's very forgiving. All the things that I look for in a plane, this one checks all those boxes. So there'll be links to the plane in the show notes, as well as the wheels and all the other stuff I spoke of. All right, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.